All right, here we go with health, wealth, happiness, mastery training. So much is showing up in the world as of this recording. And I just want to make sure we're going to incorporate some of the things that I've had to adjust and change about my being. Generally, pretty much the happy optimist guy, and I've shared in previous videos where if things get off kilter there, I've got practices in play, thanks to my work in high performance, that get me course corrected quick. And I want to make sure as we talk this through that we're real with what's showing up in the world right now. Now, as of the recording of this, still in a little bit of isolation with the COVID-19 coronavirus and with the George Floyd reactions and people's feelings and this idea of our freedoms being infringed and these kind of things. So I'm going to incorporate that into today's training. And I just want you to know this. I've had a lot of work to do personally, and you'll see how it shows up as we talk this through, to really get an understanding of what's going on and to really think about what I can do to affect change. We're going to talk that through, and what we all can do to get a better, to grow, to learn, to really understand, hey, you know what? We may be in our pocket of life and we have these certain things happening, but in the worldview, there's a lot of other things going on that maybe aren't as, at least in my context, they're a lot more challenging, a lot more frustrating, a lot more struggle involved. Keep in mind as well, as I go over everything in this session, that I've worked diligently over the last 20 years, and the first 10 of those years was touch and go, to really get mastery in what we're going to cover here today. So I kind of feel like I'm going to go over some things and it'll be like, yeah, that's a total aspiration for me. I don't even think I could do that. And I just want to challenge you this. Please keep an open mind with what we cover today. Please make sure you're taking notes. So as I'm writing on the board and I fill these things in, you should be writing. Also, no distractions. Take some time right now, shut off all notifications, all buzzers, and we'll talk about that from an advanced productivity perspective as well. And I'm also going to reference a couple books for you and make sure that you either read them or get the Reader's Digest. There's a lot of places like, I think Goodreads gives you the short 15-minute digest. So many times the author themselves, they're out on video, walking you through things. Great example of that. One of the books I love, Leaders Eat Last. If you go on YouTube, you can see Simon, the author of the book, talking the concepts through and really going over that. So just want to make sure, is my job on this planet is lived into for you? And that's to help you realize you can live, the ambition for today, a more happy, a more free, less regretful life. And I just want to make sure that we're kind of dialing things in for you. So many people, especially in the last few months as they've been isolated, have fallen into some, they've reported anyway, the people that I'm working with, and people have reached out to me. A lot of people reached out. Thanks to everybody who's reached out. Wow, it's been fun and really helping people kind of dial things in and course correct and deal with some stuff that's coming up for them that may have been bottled up for a while. But it's been really clear to me that a lot of people are looking at, how can I keep a good momentum when I have a lot of time on my hands or when I have a lot of different responsibilities on my hands? How do I get a good momentum going and sustain it? And isn't that the magic of life when you really think about it? To get a good momentum, a good rhythm. We'll talk about that down here. An operating rhythm, thanks to my friend Dave for kind of reflecting those words for me and making sure that, he's a coach as well, making sure that I understood when life is being fully lived, we have an operating rhythm, a set of behaviors and habits that we're working through. And we'll touch on that bonus right now from down here. And that we really are clear on what we should be doing and that we have clear emotional connection to do it. So we'll be breaking that all down for you. That being said, thank you so incredibly much for being here. If there's anything I can do for you, please, please, please reach out. Getting chills just telling you this. So many people have been like, Char, I typically don't ask for help. And you've said this, I've seen your emails, or I've seen you say it on video, or I've seen you in person. And would it be okay if we got on a call real quick, or we can talk something through on a Zoom? And that's helped them immensely. So my challenge for you is, if you need help, and if you're in our mastery community, you know this, we can have a check-in session. If you're not in our mastery community, you're watching this, I'm happy to have what I like to call a discovery call. 10, 20 minutes, we'll sit down and try to sort it out, see if I can direct, help, guide you, really try to help you get back to, course corrected, if you want to call it that, or just have dreams, hopes, ambitions for what's possible, especially if you're living in a lot of struggle, challenge, frustration. So with all of our trainings, we try to follow a method adult learning theory has taught me. Adult learning theory is where people, if you structure things right, people learn faster. We always start with the big picture. And for me, that's driven around our 5 Ps, and we're going to assess ourselves on those. Today's training is going to dive deep on this P, which if you know our training, you know what that P is. Productivity. Advanced productivity. How to get more done and feel more happy and free. I have to tell you, so often when I create curriculum, create what I'm going to train for you, it inspires me. Like the teacher learns from being the teacher, but the teacher is also the student. And I'm going into, at the time this is filmed, we're in June of 2020. In July, we're going into heavy-duty new rhythms, new operating rhythms are coming online for me and my team to make sure we're living into so much of what we know we can do from growth, scale, and helping the world in even bigger ways. Big caveat, want to make sure that I am always taking care of the people who have been part of our, now going on our 4th, I can't believe I'm saying this, 4th year of our mastery community. So let's celebrate that, rock it out for all of my mastery community members. We're going into year 4. Like first year, 2017, second, 2018, third, 2019, 4th, August of 2020. It's amazing. And you look at the library of content that has been created, and it's unbelievable when you think about it all. It's so powerful that we've created this. And so many of these trainings have been just feedback. You guys saying, hey, Char, here's where I'm struggling. Here's what I need. And me living into what we teach in high performance coaching, in persuasion and influence, people support what they create. Everything in life is a co-creation if you think about it. That being said, let's jump into perspective. So get your notes out. 5 Ps. The first P is purpose. So my challenge for as we go through these is to really think forward. Usually we do a backward view, like how purposeful have you felt in the last month? I want you to think about what is it going to feel like for you. As of this recording, we're in the middle of 2020. And if you're watching this later on, just think about the next 6 months. So for the people watching this, by the end of 2020, December 31st, 2020, what is it going to feel like for you? Or what are you doing to ramp up feeling purposeful? Let me give you a little bit of framing there. When people report feeling purposeful, these are people that are either new or haven't done any self-development, personal development. When you just kind of ask them, they're like, I don't know, I kind of know when I feel purposeful. But the reality is, they're doing something they enjoy. So many times they've reflected, they're doing it with people they love to be around, or they're creating something that they're sharing, they're learning something new, and then creating and sharing. We call that the trifecta of happiness. Other times they're just being in the moment, being present with life, being a good parent, especially in light of what's happened the last few months, where a lot of parents have had to become homeschool teachers. And they're like, purpose to me is making it through a day where I've helped my child learn something new. Because that's kind of my job as I've been put in the driver's seat for teaching, right? I don't know what purpose is for you, but I do know this. People who have been interviewed at the end of their lives regretted their lives when they didn't feel a sense of purpose. So my job today, very clearly, is to not only help us dial up purpose, we'll talk about that here in more detail in the context for our training today, but also for you to assess by the end of this year or in the next 6 months, by the end of the next 6 months, whatever it is for you, what am I doing? What am I amplifying? What am I bringing on that's new? What am I doubling down on that I'm already involved with to feel more purposeful? My challenge for you, if you're watching, is to share. I always reward for participation. So I'm watching the comments, and I'd love to know, what is it that you're doing, being, trying, experiencing to feel more purpose? This tees up today's conversation in these 13 areas to consider pretty well as well. So we'll be diving into that for you. Second P, is passion. Tell you what, with everything that's going on in the world right now, there's so many people that have been impassioned with getting out and protesting and sharing their beliefs because they're feeling it like I'm feeling it. Freedom's been infringed upon. And I got this purpose and this passion to go out and be and show and do what I have to do to feel I'm heard, or to feel that I'm doing what I can to help in this mission. So many beautiful, beautiful people over the years fought for our freedoms, especially here in the United States. And the biggest part of this is we're seeing some of these things pulled away, not to be judgmental or the opinion of it, but the reality of it. The freedoms have been pulled away. The freedom of speech in so many instances, the freedom to be, these rules, these ideas that we've created, getting choked up here. But the idea is we've got the purpose and the passion. And a lot of people, they were moving along through isolation. They didn't feel a lot of this because they got pulled out of their life and their rhythms. And all of a sudden this comes along and they are empowered. They're purposeful and passionate. Our biggest issue, and our master coach Brendan covered this so well, I'll talk about this a little more as well, but the civic leadership training he did recently, in the sense that when we really want to go after a movement, it isn't a one and done situation. It's an ongoing journey. So what does it take to sustain the journey? And it's a big part of today's conversation with operating rhythms. What am I doing on a day-to-day basis to keep this movement moving along? What are my behaviors and my actions and my outputs? You follow? So I'm trying to do a good job of being relevant with what's happening as of the recording of this. Also reflecting on what we're going to dive deep on in our training today. So I hope this is kind of jiving for you. My goal for you is to think about when I am feeling emotionally engaged and enthused, typical qualities of feeling passion, what am I doing? And what do I want to do more of as I work through the rest of this year or the next 6 months? So maybe share one or two things. And I'll share a couple of mine just so you have an illustration. From the purpose and passion perspective, I have a guitar full of a wall of guitars over here. I was trying to decide what is my next learning journey on the guitar. And I just want to be able to really, they call that shredding, but work the scales in a fast fashion. And I can do okay. I haven't practiced in quite a while, but I'm bringing that operating rhythm back online. And that falls under one of these. This one is hobbies. And I'm working on hobbies and really dialing in what do I want to accomplish there and dialing that up. When I do that and I feel it, I don't have to share that, right? I just do it and I feel it. I'm like, wow, I'm accomplishing more. And I'm able to do that and maybe putting it on video just for my sake. Maybe I'll share it, maybe I won't. But that's a purposeful passion for me to really create. That's such a release for me. It gets me in a creative state, which helps me in my work. Does that all make sense? So more for me in the next 6 months, more purposeful learning and training on the guitar, or on one of the guitars. Cool? I hope this is kind of ringing true for you. Third P, positivity. What are we doing that we feel joyful about? And what are you going to do more of in the next 6 months to really dial joy up? Does that all make sense? Really owning the positive journey here. So for me, fun and adventure, and that shows up in here. I think it's that one, adventure. And we haven't had the capacity to go out and really adventure like we used to pre-isolation. We're going to Switzerland in the summer and Europe, all these things that we've done traditionally. So we're creating new adventures at a regional level, at a national level, maybe car trips, these kind of things. So bringing the joy with myself and with others. One thing that I know about me, and I don't know if it's like this for you, is when I'm out and traveling and capturing through pictures and video, that adventure really brings the joy to me. We'll be releasing shortly our Switzerland videos. Finally got them all edited and really worked through all of 2018's videos and 2019. I'm going to be putting those out. I think it's going to be a couple a week on Facebook and on YouTube. Some of them are already up there. We have a bunch more. Just so I can watch them and share the joy with others about what's possible in the world. You follow? And that ties into fun and adventure, and I hope you're seeing how this kind of interconnects. The fourth P is what we're really diving deep on today. I hope I'm setting a good stage for you. Productivity. Productive. Keeping in mind, when we think about this from what we teach in the land of high performance, you like that, the land of high performance? We're talking about going after and having clear life ambitions. And that in itself for a lot of people who don't think about that is like, what does that even mean? So a lot of times I like to reflect on the fact that's like a bucket list. Hey, these are the things that I want to accomplish before I die. And more importantly, while I have good health. Like there's, in the context for how people can look at life, there's a health span and then there's a lifespan. And a lot of people, especially some that I know personally, have a shorter health span than they do a lifespan. Like this pocket of time, they're not able to go out and do what they could do because they have ailments, they have chronic disease, and these kind of things. So while we have good health, what are we going after? And our job, at least in my opinion, and especially in line with what we coach and teach in high performance, is to have that health span as close to the lifespan as possible. So with that being said, I'd love to know from your perspective, two things. One, in the next 6 months, what are you really hoping to achieve from a productivity perspective? What are some items on your bucket list that you'd like to have checked off? If you have a bucket list. Maybe you don't. Maybe it's time to make one. At the bigger scope, the bigger scales, we talk about this a lot in our world of high performance, is the idea of what are the bigger ambitions that you want to go after, accomplish, take care of, do. And who do you want to do them with? So one of mine is, let's just go travel Europe. Obviously that's off the plate right now, but I've been formulating that plan for a long time and really owning it. My dream is for us to teach from the mountains of Switzerland. If I have a flip chart or index cards, I'll be teaching you from there. Like, how cool will that be? Ambition for season 4 of our health, wealth, and happiness training. These kind of things, right? And I'm at a place, competent-wise, where I could do that, where I can talk extemporaneously as I am with you in this moment right now and really go after it. Just got to have a framework. That's what this acts as for the sake of our work today. So putting this back on you, though, what are your ambitions? What are you going after? Second part to this, from a productivity standpoint, what is it that isn't productive for you? Where are pockets of your life being sucked away by distraction? And as soon as I said that, I was thinking of TikTok, Instagram, Facebook. So just so you have frame, and I'll be talking this through as we go through the 13 areas to consider, in the last week, I've brought on a practice of looking at and watching and laughing my butt off with TikTok. And I do this with people around me, and it's amazing. Some of the things that are on TikTok are so hilarious. And I have to be careful not to let that be a time suck. But going on TikTok as part of productivity, for a lot of people, like, I can't do that, that's not productive. It's incredibly productive from my perspective, because I want to frame this up for you. Production is not just getting things done for work purposes. So many people reflected on Charly, that was my biggest takeaway. Production is enjoying moments that take you away. Fun, adventure, laughter. Production is having what we like to classify in high performance, planned distractions. What does that mean? It means, you know what? I know that I feel better after watching YouTube videos and just sitting there randomly. I feel better after binge watching Netflix. I feel like, they would just chill, reset, or decompress. Well, let's just put that in our schedule, shall we? And let's just enjoy it. And let's not bring any guilt to it. So I hope this is opening things up for you. So I'd love to know, as we think about the ambitions over the next 6 months or a year or whatever that is for you, and then things where your life's being sucked away, what's showing up there for you? What are some ambitions? Like by the end of this year, I really hope that I've accomplished, gone after, at least tried this. And what are some areas in your life where things are being sucked away? And then the last P, from the big picture perspective, is profit. We have to be making income to survive in the way the world's structured today. Back in the old days, there was a trade and barter. You didn't really make money sometimes. You made things and you traded them, exchanged value. We'll talk a lot about that in today's business and internet mastery training. The exchanging of value and workflows, and taking this conversation in the business space. In any event, profitability. I like to look at it in a real simple context. Some people are like, there's way more to it than that. Other people are like, wow, I didn't even think of that. And that is that you're making enough to cover your break even, meaning the expenses that you have on a month-to-month basis or a yearly basis. And then you have a fun and adventure fund, where every week, day, whatever that is for you, month, you have things you do that you enjoy that are completely just fun and adventurous. Could be playing games, could be going putt-putt, could be like mini golf, could be bowling, could be walking the beach, could be having a drink. off the beach. Maybe I have a little bit of background there. Going after it. And then we also are saving for the future and or paying down debt, making sure that we've got that covered. Or both, depending on how your life's structured. If you need any help in any of these areas, this is where I've spent 30 years of my life, not only getting it masterful for me, living an incredibly lean yet rich life. Rich in the sense of feeling of quality relationships, having fun and adventure, but not blowing everything I make. Like that kind of mentality. And going after a rich, vibrant, loving, fun and adventurous life. So if you need any help in any of these areas, I hope we've painted a big ambition for you. What is it in the next 6 months you're doing or considering to do or thinking about doing or taking, now it's time to take some action and plan that out to feel more purposeful? What is it in the next 6 months you're doing to bring more passion, more emotional engagement, enthusiasm online? What are you doing in the next 6 months to bring more joy? What are you doing in the next 6 months to bring more productivity? And yes, that could mean, every day I'm going to spend 30 minutes on TikTok laughing my butt off. Cool. It also can mean I'm going to spend 20 minutes every other day practicing guitar. It also can mean I'm going to play Uno with my family at least once a week. These are all productive pieces. Coming out of the 20s and 30s and 40s, the 1920s, 30s and 40s, a lot of people equated productivity with work only. And it still lingers today with a lot of people I coach. And it's like, that's not the case. Productivity, at least the way we teach in high performance, is the big picture of making sure that we're living in alignment in these different arenas of life. And we'll go over some of those today. So I just want to make sure. But what is it for you in the next 6 months? And then finally, what are we doing in the next 6 months to live profitably? Does that mean, especially the entrepreneurs that we have in our mastery community, that we're doubling down on launch? We're doubling down on schedules towards really going after creating new relationships, creating new sales, developing new product, releasing new product, testing and measuring the release, and going after it. But I'm going to share some of that stuff for me. This ends the perspective piece of our big picture training, and I hope we've already stirred up a lot of ambition for you. I really hope this has helped you. If you have anything that's come up and you have negative self-talk, can't do that, won't work, don't have the cash, not going to happen, and you want to talk that through, we have our Zoom roundtable for our Mastery Community members, but also feel free to reach out. That's what I'm here for. I take that so incredibly seriously. So let's go ahead and get into the training aspect. Along this ambition, how to get more done and feel more happy and free. So the first thing that I want to frame up for us, and this is thanks to Heather, one of the beautiful people I'm coaching. We're in our 3rd year of coaching. It's crazy how time flies. This is one-on-one coaching, by the way. She talked about when she feels most productive as she lives in her day. She's working from heart-centered work instead of from her mind, her body, her brain. Does that make sense? Let me kind of break it down for you. So often, and when I think about production, I get hindered from being most productive because I get too caught up in my head. I start to think, it's going to be, I don't want to really do that now. It's like, no. And then I have to take that emotion, that feeling. I literally, in my brain, I visualize pulling that, no, I don't want to, bundling it up and throwing it over there, and then just living into the tactics to get the job done. Does that make sense? That what I just shared with you has helped dozens of people really consider what would show up as procrastination and these kind of things. On the flip side, what we've discovered, and this may be true for you, is that when we do heart-centered work, and it's there's a prerequisite here sometimes in that we have to know what heart-centered work is for us. When we do that work, it pulls us to get it done. We don't have to push to get it done. It just pulls us. Me coming in the studio today to film with you and to do our Zoom roundtable and so on. I'm pulled to do this because it's heart-centered for me. I'm not like, I got to take care of my people. I got to do all this stuff. Sometimes that has come up for me. I'm like, I got to do it. But immediately I think about the heart part of this, the love, the passion, the purpose for being in this conversation with you. So my challenge for you as we think about how to get more done and feel more happy and free is, what are the things that help you feel more happy and free that you're doing, are you doing them enough? Have you tried enough? Do you literally have, we call it R&D, research and development, in your schedule, just figuring out new things to learn about, to try, to go after? So for me, to give you an example of this, to ignite new passions, for example, one of my passions is astronomy, is going on YouTube and learning about SpaceX. Going on YouTube, and I think it's Insanely Curious is the YouTube channel, I'll have to double check that. But they just talk about all these different aspects of what we're learning and what's showing up now in space and how we're getting, things built to get there. That's igniting me at a heart level. In my work, helping, and I'm so blessed that I've had great role models in my life. My parents, my mom's parents, my grandma, Bob and Bee, oh my gosh. They were heart-centered, and it felt like in everything they did. They really owned being compassionate to the human spirit. They never saw color. I never even understood what that was. I just knew there were people in need and we were out helping them and going after it. I've told this story many times. I'll tell it one more time. In that, on a weekend, it was very common for us to go down. We were in Detroit, Michigan area. Go down to downtown Detroit to the deaf school. The kids that were there, their parents did not pick them up. So we would bring games and have fun with them and bring roller skates and do all this stuff. And we just have fun and do that. But their messaging wasn't, hey, we're going to go help the kids. It was, we're going to go and bring love to some people tonight. And they just stepped in and did it. And so when I think about heart-centered work based on my upbringing, I had to get clear on the fact that helping you from where you're at, wherever that is for you, to where you want to be, is part of my heart-centered work. And that I get a lot of fulfillment out of. I feel happy and I feel free when I'm doing that work with you. So I really want you to spend some time here thinking about what are things where you get too far in your head. And what I mean by that is they maybe pull you out of alignment, they distract you. I see a lot of people that they're looking seriously in their phone and they're letting what's showing up on that piece of glass guide their psychology. And typically it's not in a good place. That's what they'll report. Versus heart-centered work. Going out and volunteering. Same amount of time. Like let's just say you're an hour on the phone or an hour volunteering. But at the end of that hour, you didn't go on a roller coaster of emotion. You went out and helped other humans in some way. You follow? So as we build the case for today's work, what's showing up for you that feels right? What's showing up for you that's like heart-centered, that's coming from a place of, yeah, this feels good for me? And are you assessing and being real with that? So often this brings up that conversation of reflection. Do you take time out throughout your day to sit and reflect on these things? Do you take time to really, you know what? That felt good. You know what? That sucked. You know what? Being around that person, I really get my energy drained. And do you take corrective action beyond that for the future? You know what? The highest performers, hey, that conversation, that tone, is that a one-time thing or is that a chronic thing? I want less of that in my life. So to feel more happy and free, so often, this was a post that I put up this week, we just have to pull ourselves out of the drama. We have to think about, what is it? Maybe just being with myself versus going out with these people that are what some people classify as toxic. Just the conversation tone, the fact they live in blame, excuse, denial, drama, gossip, versus let's talk about our dreams and ambitions, or let's just chill and have some fun and play some games, right? These kind of things. I just want to make sure we're kind of laying the land for you here. So when I look at my work, and this took me a while to get to, so don't think that like, Charlie's got this all sorted out. It's very heart-centered work. It pulls me to get on video, to get more masterful at this craft and be here with you. Pulls me to do this work. There's a lot of stuff that was distracting for me. And once I got clear on the stuff that too far in my head, and I can sense myself getting there, I have practices in play to just keep the love alive. That's why when you see me on Facebook or wherever, I'm loving everything. The world needs more love. What do you think about that? Is that true? So, that being said, what is it for you in this space? Where are you falling maybe down that rabbit hole of getting too far in your head that's hindering your progress, that's hindering your productivity, and what's 1, 2, or 3 things that can get you back into your heart, into your purpose, into your passion, into your positivity. So I hope you're sensing how this ties to these, and how this, sometimes it can be helpful to get in our head and be like, oh my gosh, I really got to think about this. But so often, what I've noticed with the people that I've worked with, they get in their head and they blow a day. And they just fall off the rails from living into a lot of these P's. And when we think about aligning our heart work with our realm of the P's, that just excites me to no end. And my dream for you is to be clear on that. So if you want a journaling exercise, think about what are the things in the last year that I've really enjoyed, that felt right, that ignited the love in my heart. And then conversely, what are the things in the last year that were like deal breakers? Like, how did I get in this situation? I don't want to do this. I don't want to be this. What is that for you? Now take that and move forward that as we get into our work today and think about, what am I doing? What am I scheduling in the future to be of more love, heart-centered work? You follow? So powerful. Thank you so much for being here. I hope this is landing the way I envision it landing for you. This is so powerful when you get this. I'm getting chills just telling you this. I'm really blessed, and I hope you have somebody in your life, because this may help you focus, that has shown living a heart-centered life, where they are out helping others. Typically, that's my frame for this, and it doesn't have to be the frame for you, but the idea is when we're out helping others, we have purpose being fulfilled, passions being met, positivity being put into space, feeling productive, and feeling just, this is what I'm supposed to be doing. Do you get that sensation? So, the mind versus the heart, part 1. Part 2, as we think about it, is feelings and outputs. This is a big part of the work we do in high performance. If you've ever read High Performance Habits, this beautiful book over here, we talk a lot about, from the high performance perspective, how we want to feel as we go through our day, how we want to feel as we think about what we're going to accomplish. We spend a lot of time anticipating the before, the during, and the after. So we're like, okay, when I go into this work, here's how I need to be physiologically. Here's how I need to be. Here's the person that I want to represent, or the part of me that I want to represent. Coming into these videos, I've got to be on. And for me now, because I've been doing this for so long, I just step in and I'm on. And I'm not like off when I'm out, when I'm not on camera. I'm like this most of the time. Maybe a little more quiet and reflective, but still really enjoying life and working from that perspective. So when we think about productivity, especially from a high performance perspective, there's a sensation of how we want to feel. And this is new for a lot of people, and it was new for me when I saw this. And there's a sensation how we want to feel before we do something. Like, what are we feeling to be best prepared for said task? There's a feeling of how we want to feel during this, like how I want to feel right now with this with you. There's a sensation of how I want to feel after this is complete. My sensation for, just so you have a frame, my sensation for how I want to feel after I complete this training is I want to know that I did my very best, brought love, compassion, care, presence, engagement, and joy. These are my words. If you follow us in high performance, the clarity chart in action. I've lived into these P's as best that I can. I've been the role model and the results expert. And I also want to feel that this training is so good I can piece it out and take chunks of it, what we call value clips, and put them into the world to really help others. Just clips of the training. So far I'm thinking there's probably 8 to 10 clips that I can just pull out and be like, hey guys, when you're thinking about X, consider this. Can you see that? So these are some of the things. You also hear in line of what I shared, there were some outputs, meaning that there is clearly feelings of how I want to feel before, during, and after. And then there's specific outputs that come from this work. So let me frame this, we'll finish this, and then we'll dive into the outputs piece. Your question is this: what emotions and feelings will throw me off when you really get into the work. So for example, before I got competent, really competent at getting in front of the camera and just lighting up and going after it with you, the feeling of, oh, is today the day for this? I have kind of a headache. Oh, this is throwing me off. And I would let it throw me off. Now I'm very conscious of what gives me headaches. And that was probably dehydration in the day or partying too hardy the night before. Now I'm like, no, these are the way I want to feel before, during, and after. What am I doing to set up to feel that way, right? What could throw me off today? So before I started filming, before we started filming today, there was a bunch of noise going on just outside of where the studio and sky is. And I'm like, in 2012 when I was filming my courses, that stuff it'd show up in my face in the training that I was mad. I was really angry. Why are they doing that? Why does it bother me? And I'm just like, I'm going to talk through it. Today, I'm like, hey, if that's going on, hopefully you won't be able to hear it on camera, but I'm just going to talk through it, talk over it. I'm good with it. Life, throw me what you got. We're going to get to work. We're going after this. We're going to have our Zoom roundtable. We're going to do all this stuff. No big deal. Big pivot there. Knowing how you're going to handle things that could throw you off. Big question we ask in high performance as part of a morning routine. What could throw me off today? How am I going to handle it? And I just adopted a life principle. The principle is this. I don't know what's going to throw me off, but I know who I'm going to be if I feel thrown off. And I'm just going to course correct, deal with it in the best possible way I can, and work through it. This is a big part of the high performance conversation. So pause for a minute. I'm a certified high performance coach. In our mastery community, we have got dozens of certified high performance coaches. We're all blessed to be able to walk you through 48, well, most of us are blessed to be able to do 48. All of us are blessed to be able to walk you through the first 12 sessions where we get clear on our life, personally and professionally. We get clear on what provides energy. We get clear on where we need to be courageous, influential, productive. So if you have any interest at all in the high performance conversation and you want to do a strategy session or you want to learn more about it, please fill out below the application that will walk you through some of the questions that we really go through and answer for you. And my goal for you is to understand that high performance, as I've learned it to be in the last 8 years now, is a journey, not a destination. So what we're really going after here is it's a set of operating rhythms in our life, as we talked about earlier, that we're practicing. The beauty is, and I can tell you this about year 4 for me, a lot of the practices didn't feel like work. They just became me. Like, it was just a total side note for you. I haven't literally worn dress clothes, like this is kind of dressy for Florida, in months because of the isolation. And today I was like, you know what, I'm going to dress up. So I'm wearing a dress shirt. These are shorts. And I got them on. I'm like, I haven't put these on in like months. Are they going to fit? And I've actually lost weight through isolation, which is kind of the opposite of what I'm hearing a lot of people say. Some people are saying that. But for me, I just lived into my operating rhythms of getting out and walking every day, running, exercise when I could. They shut some of the things down and just kept those practices alive and keeping what I eat dialed in for the most part. I'm good. That's the operating rhythm in play. But these are all parts that are just subconscious for me. I won't even let myself go old school, as I call it, bring out my big boy self, because I've developed such behaviors and habits and rhythms in life that have led to this kind of thing. Putting this on you, how are you doing with behaviors, habits, and rhythms? Where do you feel you need work? And if you need any help in these areas, we're blessed, I'm blessed, and we're blessed in the community to have a lot of people who are certified in a process to help you get there and stay there for the long term. So if you have any interest in that, high performance coaching applications down below. That being said, when we think about feelings, the other side of productivity, in the bigger scope of what we're covering today, to feel more happy and free, are the outputs. What are we actually creating or putting into the world or bringing into our life from an output perspective? So I love it from the small business owner, entrepreneur, thought leader perspective. My outputs are incredibly clear. I've got a lot of what we call artifacts that help people. I've got, and I'm building this right now and it's so awesome. Season 3, Season 2, Season 1 of Health, Wealth, and Happiness. That's 36 one-hour sessions on various topics that help people in very specific ways. And oh my gosh, like those can be marketed and sold individually. They can be marketed and sold as a group. as a monthly membership, in addition to a lot of the work that we're doing in the mastery community. And I'm building all these pages for this. And these are the outputs from this very work. Gave me a whole nother sense of holy moly today. Coming in here, I'm like, this is going into that library that we're going to put into the world. And as you've probably noticed in the line of work that we're doing, this is legacy content, meaning that this stuff doesn't change in a year. This stuff sticks for the foreseeable future. If I taught this 100 years ago, this still applied. You feel it? You follow? We may have different ways of living productively and profitably 100 years ago, but the concepts are like timeless. So I challenge all our thought leaders and coaches, build timeless content. Build timeless content. That's some of the outputs. Some of the other outputs, I talked about this earlier, playing the guitar, learning how I'll know when I've hit that output or that goal to shred, and I'm getting there, when I can watch myself on video and be like, that is it. I can play that and have the timing right. I'll know that I've hit one of the outputs that I have for adventure and fun when I've gone through and hit certain countries and certain cities in Europe. So my challenge for you as we think through the outputs, what are those outputs for you? And now's a great time to go over 13 areas to consider. Thinking about outputs. You up for this? Am I throwing too much at you? I hope this training's landing for you. This is everything. This is living a life where you feel more happy and free because you're doing things that you know you should do. And we'll get into how you actually tactically set this up shortly. But you're doing the things that, never really thought about that. I do want to learn that. I do want to create something in that space. I do want to share some things that help the world somehow. And then you feel, and for me it's so clear, I feel like I'm carrying around a lot less guilt when I'm doing what I know that I'm capable of. You follow? So let's kind of stir the pot a little bit even more and talk about 13 areas to consider. The first one I just covered, learn. So if you look, and we kind of framed this up from the beginning, over the next 6 months, we talk a lot about this in the charge sessions. There's a chapter on it in the charge on competence. What are the skills, abilities, and knowledge you need to grow to feel productive, more productive in life in the next 6 months? So as of this filming, by the end of 2020, what is it that you just, if I can reflect back and feel that I've learned this and got some mastery here, I will know I'm on track with my life. I'll feel happy, and I hope a little more free. So often in the context of freedom, it's a mindset. And we're thinking, to feel more free, I'll not have all this baggage of what I want to do covering, and I'll be actually working on it. And I'll have time to do what I want to do outside of that. Watch TikTok. Go for walks. Go travel. All that kind of stuff. So we'll get to some of the tactics as we get down in here. But the concept is, what is it for you from this area to consider? Learn. For me, there's R&D. So I literally have time scheduled where I go through and research and develop. Like the reason I'm on TikTok. How can I apply this to business? If I was to make my mark in TikTok, what would that look like? Is that even a possibility? Is that something that I want to do? Is that heart-centered for me? So I'm in TikTok and I'm loving it. Oh, it's so much fun. Got to be careful of time and distraction, but we're having a blast. It's so cool. Some of these things in TikTok, just side note, some of these things in TikTok are so hilarious that I've had to rewatch them a bunch, and I'm just crying tears and loving it. You'll see this show up in another one of our areas to consider. So for you, the feelings you want to have before, during, and after as you're learning. The outputs from your learning. Like we think about outputs, like what is it that I'm doing differently in my life because of my learning? Where does that take me? Sometimes we'll reflect on that as a goal. What's the goal with this learning journey? The goal for the guitar is to be able to play this. The output is that I'm doing this. And it's like muscle memory. Second is create. And this is a big one for a lot of people I work with. They're creating courses, they're creating programs, they're creating monthly membership trainings, they're co-creating with others. So what is it that you want to create in the next 6 months? So by the end of 2020, again, going back to this, where this is being filmed in June, like going back through the year, what is it that I've created that I feel freaking happy and free that I've done? Like, I got that in the world, I got it done. And I keep thinking about a book, for some that I'm coaching. For me, it's just this online library of upsells and everything else that we're building out right now for scale. My word of the decade is scale. And we're laying an amazing foundation. I've given myself a lot of time to do it, a decade. And we're already, I think we're just crushing it from the perspective of what we're building and the amount of purpose I'm putting into it all. And spending time with it. It's not like, there is urgency here, but the idea is I want to just do the best that I can with what I know and then tune it as we move along. That's how you get things perfect. Put it in the world, update it. Get feedback, update it. I'm not trying to get perfect out of the gate, if that makes sense. So what is it for you in the next 6 months that you want to create, that you would have in the world, an artifact? Some people I'm working with are like, I want a book published by CreateSpace, Amazon's publishing arm, and I want to have it in Amazon, and I want to be promoting it in 2021. And that book is also the framework for what I teach and coach, so I want a course with it. Cool? Next, what do you want to share? How do you want to feel when you share things? Here's what I know. In every social media that I'm active in, Instagram and Facebook primarily, a little bit of Twitter, I'm sharing specific things. There's specific outputs that are going out, and I know how I want to feel as I'm putting them in play. I want to feel like I'm living into the legacy of Bob and Bea, my grandparents, putting goodwill in the world. So that's what I do every day. I put a post up in my Health, Wealth, and Happiness Facebook page, and then in my Facebook group for more advanced life and business mastery, I'm putting up contextual things that really help people in those areas. Links to learn more, to set higher aspiration. That's on a day-to-day basis as well. I'm also sharing a lot of the work that our mastery community members are doing in that area. And it's just, that's what I'm doing. That's the rhythm. That's the operating rhythm. You follow? So I'm sharing in that way. I'm sharing time with my girls. We're doing things that individually we like to do together, like one daughter and I and another daughter and I. As you may have seen on my Instagram, my youngest, Josie, and I, we love to take walks together. We like to exercise together. We also love to play World of Warcraft on the PC. And we got 2 gaming computers with 2 monitors sitting by each other, and we're just like questing together. We're in a party sync, as they call it. So the quests, we're doing these tasks and these lands together, and we get credit for them together. And it's like an amazing connection experience. I have to thank Jane McGonigal for writing Super Better to really get me reframed that living productively can mean playing video games with your family or yourself. Because for a while there, in 2014 and 15, I'm like, oh, got to get rid of video games. That's not productive. No, that's productive for me to have a sensation of fun and adventure and go back to my roots of what I loved to do when I was younger. I just have to make sure I'm not blowing a day doing it. Does that make sense? So I hope this is lighting you up. And then we have the perspective of adventure. I'm just going to kind of fill these in as I think of them. Adventure and fun, and we'll walk through them. Self-care. Love, meaning with significant other. Family. Mission. Work. These are some of the life arenas we teach in high performance. Contribution. Could be volunteering. Contribution, laugh and fun up here, and I'm going to go over that in a minute with you. Hobbies, we talked about that. Spirit, for some, that's religion, religious. Others, like me, that's more of a being out in nature. And then finances. These are just some areas to consider as you think about outputs and feelings that you want to bring into life. These are more of the high performance realms, touching the tip of the iceberg on these. So let's take some time with this. And what I'd love for you to do, if you have your notes out, is just jot down some ideas. You know, 1 per line. And then at the end of this, we'll prioritize those ideas. Because I want to really kind of let this land for you in the way we're going to end this training today. Does that sound okay? So I'm going to start from the top again, just so we have this full frame for what you're going to prioritize and write down. When you think about the feelings and outputs of what you want to learn. So a great example of that, I had no real knowledge on civic leadership and like understanding what was going on the world level. And just like Brendan does, he delivers this training. It's 2.5 hours long on civic leadership last week. And I sat down and I watched it and took notes. And then I rewatched it and retook even more notes. total area that if you were to rate my competencies in there, civic leadership, it's maybe a 1 out of 10. Maybe now it's a 3 out of 10. I don't have any real application in my life for it. Maybe some of this work is considered that. But the idea is I really need to build my competency. So I have the feelings of, why is it important for me to learn this? I want the feeling of, okay, how can I apply that? Oh, this is good. This is gold. I'm learning. And just the power of learning lights me up. After, I want to feel like, okay, I've got actionable items. I got distinctions. I've got things that I need to do to go and take care of. So I'm in the formulation of that right now. So that's one piece, an example for you. In the create area, what's something, and we'll try to frame this for 6 months as we've been doing all along, that you want to create? And try to pick 1, 2, or 3 things and no more that you want to create by the end of 6 months, by the end of this year. From the share perspective, what is it that you want to share? And I would challenge you on this more consistently to develop that into an operating rhythm where every day you're sharing something. So for example, for me, I want to maintain sharing good information, inspiring quotes in our Health, Wealth, and Happiness page. I want to maintain sharing my life through photos, the spiritual connection of life through Instagram. That's my goal with that, just so you have frame. And you'll see if you go on there, it's very much about that. Like the beauty of nature, me being out and about, just sensing it on a day-to-day basis. I want to share in our Life and Business Mastery Facebook group, that's the private group, I want to share things that really help move the needle for the people who are blessed to be in that group with me. And I want to share things people are doing that help others move the needle in the circles of who I know. You follow? Big point of that. But I want to continue to do that. I've already developed these in operating rhythms. So is there any operating rhythms, whether that operating rhythm is something you're doing every day, every week, every month, maybe even every quarter, that you want to build? An example of an operating rhythm per quarter might go into the adventure and fun bucket. And that is a 4-day trip somewhere you've never been. We talk a lot about this high performance. Every 90 days, schedule that time. Go out, connect. If you have a significant other, a love, take some time. You guys sort it out. Where are we going to go now that's going to be fun for both of us? I keep thinking of Vegas for me, which is coming back online now, which is kind of exciting. Although, being inside is a high risk, as we were talking about in our latest weekly wisdom, what the risk levels are for certain things. This one was a big one for me. What do I want to feel and what outputs do I want to have in play for laughing more often? And that is another reason why TikTok came on board. Karen, if you're watching, sending you all kinds of love, high performance humor. We have got to put a practice in our life to bring more joy and care and laughter. And she's on the hunt to make sure we're doing that and we're being that. So kudos to you, Karen, rocking it out, going after it. Big part of what I had to do is consider, what is it that makes me laugh? Like, where in my life in the last 6 months have I laughed uncontrollably where I was crying, laughing so hard? And it's through, for me, YouTube prank videos that don't hurt people necessarily. And like maybe hurt them a little bit, but not like really hurting them a lot. And I found that through TikTok. So I looked at TikTok as R&D for me to consider, okay, what is this mechanism and the mood and the culture of this? And how am I going to, if I'm going to develop a strategy for it, what would I do to make it mine? And what would be my operating rhythm to do that, right? Well, total side effect, I'm laughing my butt off sharing TikToks with everybody. Some of them are just so hilarious. Real quick side story. Hope you like this. This one kid's got millions and millions of people watching his TikToks because he's constantly pranking his grandma and she's got a potty mouth. And so, no pun intended, or pun intended, he takes these little firecrackers, you throw them on the ground, they pop, and he puts them underneath the toilet seat with two-way tape, like tapes them in. And then he lays the toilet seat down real lightly. And he's got a hidden camera as his grandma goes to the bathroom door. She sits down and he goes, pow, 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 pow. And then she unleashes this barrage of holy bleep, 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 bleep. And I've watched that thing like 8 times, every time, crying. Because that kind of was pushing the line for hurting others. But it's hilarious. This is just some of the stuff that's going on. And it's crazy to think that you can get such enjoyment and fun out of these things. And that we're actually putting operating rhythms in for that. Not letting TikTok, and this was a trick, especially in the first night, just take me over, which it kind of did. I planned on for 30 minutes. I was like, holy crap, it's been an hour and 15. But I'm like, oops, got to dial that in. I was on an emotional ride of awesome. So where in your life are you putting in outputs in these areas? And what does it look like for you from an operating rhythm perspective? And how do you want to feel while you're doing it? So many times the procrastination of doing something is because we haven't thought about how we want to feel as we're going into doing it. Like for me, when I visualize the feelings of what I'm doing, I pop in and we're on it. Does that all make sense? Let's go. Let's make it happen. So now I'm going to kind of go through these life arenas. We'll do this in a quicker fashion because I don't want to run too over for us today. But the idea of adventure and fun, what are we doing from that perspective? To me, adventure and fun is going out in the world and experiencing things. Sometimes it's watching YouTube videos from people who are out in the world experiencing things. Tucker Gott doing paramotoring is a great YouTube channel. Tucker Gott, G-O-T-T. As you have known, if you're in our community, I love Kara and Nate. They're adventuring. They just bought a van and now they're taking that because they can't travel the way they used to around the world because of what's going on. Elaine and Riley and their sailboat, Sailing La Vagabond. These kind of things. So as we think about the outputs and feelings for self-care, so what we're trying to do here is build the case for you. In the next 6 months, just brainstorm right now, what are some ways that you want to develop better self-care? How do you want to feel before, during, and after? What are the outputs that you're hoping to achieve? And what's the operating rhythm that supports it? Does that all make sense? So I'll give you a quick example. People that I'm working with, they need to dial down sugar in their blood. So the feeling they want to feel is that I'm accomplishing and I'm feeling better and my doctor is not yelling at me and I'm not feeling guilty because I'm eating a lot of sugar. The output is, all right, when I test my levels, those sugar levels are down. The operating rhythm is, all right, I got to learn how to eat on a daily basis less sugar, natural or refined. Typically refined in the context for getting over the threshold. Does that make sense? The feeling, so often we fall apart because the feeling isn't, it's a feeling of this guy throwing me off. Screw them, I'm going to eat the sugar anyway. Oh man, I eat the sugar. They feel guilty coming from here instead of here. You see how this is all interconnecting? Next up is love. And when we say love in high performance, we're talking about that significant other or just love of life if we don't have a significant other. What are we doing here? What do we want to feel before, during, and after events with those we love? What kind of date nights are we having? What kind of 90-day adventures are we having? What are the outputs? I want to feel that we accomplished something. So many people, they're taking these, or they were taking before the isolation, these vacations where you also volunteer. Like you go to the Bahamas and you'll volunteer with an organization to help clean up something or work with children, but you're also on vacation. And the output is I felt like I gave back and enjoyed life. And my operating rhythm is to schedule that every so often. Once a month, once a quarter, once a year, whatever that is. So as you think this through, I want to stack this on for you, to consider the feelings of each of these things, the actual outputs, the goals that are met, and also what does that look like for you to change behaviorally on a weekly, daily, throughout the day basis. And I hope I'm painting the frame for you. Next, we talk about family and friends. So many people, especially in light of the isolation, are like, you know what? Falling out of operating rhythms where we're meeting every week with my immediate family, and we kind of forgot about that. And now we're bringing that back online. Our weekly family dinners. How do I want to feel before they get there? How do I want to feel while they're there? What are the things that throw me off, that make me distracted and not present while they're there? What are we doing? What are we playing? What are we learning together? What are we growing with? So Mexican trained dominoes with my mom and my stepdad, Papa Mike, coming in and doing that. And we play that and we had a lot of fun. The output of it is that we had family time, we played a game, we watched some videos together, and that I know if, for whatever reason, I was taken from this planet tomorrow, or they were, that I did my very best every day. And I was clear about it and intentional about it. Next, we talk about mission, your work. What are the outputs in the next 6 months that you want to achieve? This goes up to here, the create and share piece, typically, that you want to achieve from your work. Maybe it's a sales thing for you. What's the output? I want to have $10,000 a month coming in recurring revenue. And I have to develop the operating rhythms to support that, the behaviors, the actions, and eventually the habits to do that. So for me, very clearly, as far as scale goes, I have to build the foundation, and then I have to go out and promote. And I have to go out beyond, I'll be leveraging our immediate lists, but I'm also going to go out and do ads and stuff like that. You see how this is kind of driving? And I want to make sure, just to bring it back here, I'm doing it from a place of heart. Because when I'm doing it from a place of heart with purpose and passion, I got to tell you, the world responds. When I'm doing it out of, I got to do this, kind of from my head, sales conversion goes way down. And you can read it right on my face. That's just who I am. Next, contribution. We talk a lot about this in the context of going out and volunteering, adding value to the world, doing these things. Next, hobbies. So from the hobbies perspective, when you think about things that you want to do, and I talked a lot about this earlier, the feelings that you have before, during, and after, how you want to feel specifically during while you're doing the hobby, like playing the guitar, those kind of things. Then, what's the operating rhythm? For me, it's every few days, just 10, 20 minutes, going through, playing. And I don't even have to plug in, because these are electric guitars, just going through the scales, unplugged, that kind of thing. Spirit. I spelled it wrong. How about spirit? So what are we doing here from the perspective of connection? For me, very clearly, if you follow my Instagram, you'll see I'm out in nature every day, taking walks, smelling flowers, and just blown away by this beauty of life and the beautiful park that's connected to where we live. And that's an operating rhythm on a daily basis, actually multiple times per day outside. And we're going to be getting back on track with this, walking the beach. That connects me to source, connects me to spirit. Operating rhythm for that, it's about once a week. You see how this kind of jives? And then finally, finances. What are the operating rhythms that support living profitably for you? Maybe hitting that break even, having the fund, paying down debt, also saving for the future. Does that all make sense? I hope this lands for you. Really, really powerful. That being said, I know we're running just a hair over, so I'm going to wrap this up for you. Let's go through the next piece here. Some high-performance productivity principles. Just going to put these out there, and I want you to write them down. The first one is the highest performers know what to say no to 80% of the time. Or they say no 80% of the time. And they do that positively framed. The highest performers say no 80% of the time, positively framed, because they're so clear on their yeses. They're so clear on what they're supposed to do. But you know what? Thanks so much for that opportunity offer. I'm in the middle of a project. I'm in the middle of working on these specific things. And I don't have time for that on my plate right now, but please consider me for the future. You follow? Another high performance principle is actually a formula. Schedule plus focus plus discipline. Schedule plus focus plus discipline equals freedom. So when we think about some of the highest performers that I know, and I'm one of them, we have this idea of scheduling all the stuff we're responsible for in the first half of our day. And I like this quote, done by one. So that I'm done with all my responsibilities in the areas that matter for the operating rhythms of the day by 1 o'clock, and the rest of the day is mine. Just so you know, when we're thinking from the done by one perspective, now we have time to just enjoy the learning process. That's something that we might do after one. Now we have time to enjoy these pieces. Let's go on an adventure. We don't know where we're going to go, but we got time to. Let's just go have that fun and do that. So I'm going to give you context as we wrap up on exactly how to hit that out of the park from a pretty advanced format of time blocking. But I just want to make sure you're seeing that. I love the saying that we teach in High Performance too, thanks to Brendan, our master coach. If it's not in the schedule, it's just a dream. If it's not in the schedule, it's just a dream. Another one, the highest performers know what to do, what to delegate, and that may be some of these things, and what to delete. Sometimes we think about it from the context for what we've shared. If the output isn't strong enough, when I think about 2 hours on Netflix, what is the output of this? Is this really helping me feel better in life and informing me on how to be better? Or is it educational? Or is it just like a time suck? Like a TV show, for example. So typically I choose shows that inspire or motivate or help. Not always, but typically. And I don't watch hardly any TV anyway. But the concept is, what am I doing with my time towards those ends? What do I need to delete in my life? So as you've prioritized, hopefully you have a list in these areas for the next 6 months, maybe cross them off. That one isn't nearly as important as some of the other ones on my list. Not going to worry about that. Going to delete that. So I hope these high performance principles have helped. Just want to make sure we're knocking it out of the park for you in that perspective. The power, final part, the power of time blocks. So now that we have our list, here's one way of thinking it through. And I was kind of alluding to this as we were going through it. When I think about the hobbies perspective of guitar, 20 minutes 3 times a week. When I think about self-care, exercise, 30 minutes 3 to 5 times per week. That's what I aim for. A run and a workout. Usually it's 40, 45 minutes with time to walk out and warm up and all that kind of stuff. These are operating rhythms and then time blocks. So one of the time blocking techniques to live into done by 1 or done by noon even is this idea of 3 90-minute time blocks. And to say, and I want to make sure you make this real for you, if this is a goal for you, and we'll baby step this as well in a minute, what are the areas here that really need focus, time, and energy on for you that you really just want to accomplish? For a lot of people in our community, it's in the create and share space and in the mission space. These all kind of interconnect. I'm creating things, I'm sharing them, and it's all part of my work to live into these 5 Ps, to live profitably as well. So if you allocated an hour and a half every morning, and we'll just say 6:30 a.m. to 8, on only focusing on that. Oh, by the way, that's another high performance principle. The highest performers are seriously focused on one thing at a time. I'm going to say that again so you get that down. The highest performers are seriously focused on one thing at a time. Does that make sense? Really powerful. So if you just focused on, and I challenge you to put this in your calendar and make it real. In the next week, and this is what I'm working on too, this is that time block. And I'm going to hold it seriously to live into this task, only this task, working on these outcomes and this operating rhythm, bringing this level of feeling before, during, and after into this task in this time block. So for me, that's the scale conversation. This time block is incredibly clear for me when I think about create, share, and mission work. In that I'm creating and finalizing the landing pages for all of our beautiful library of content. That I'm creating the offers and connecting things. That when I get that flow down, and I'll be sharing that with you in our Mastery Community Business Internet Mastery Training in the near future. This is how the flow works. And then I'm going to go out and test it and report back what's working, what isn't. What I had to tune and tweak to see what's selling and what isn't from a scale perspective. Does that all make sense? But I have a time block allocated, and inside that time block, that's all I'm focused on. Another way of thinking about it is you think about your self-care from the 8:30 to 10 range. And I love to do work first, then go out and get energized, and then come back, do some work, go out, take a walk, come back. Something we teach in high performance is putting in time blocking, but also having reset breaks in between. So there's a 30-minute break here from 8:30 to 10. What does that look like for you? What are you fully focused on? That means that everything's turned off. All buzzers, notifications are on D&D or out of the room, whatever that is, you're fully focused on the work. And then maybe take a 30-minute break and then from 10:30 to 12. If you aren't doing this and you were to put even one time block in a day of full focus for 90 minutes, do you think your life would change? We've gone over 13 areas to consider making that time block about. I would challenge you from the high performance perspective, feelings and outputs, deciding on the operating rhythms for those time blocks. Does that all make sense how this connects? If you want to bring this up and really go after it, and you want to have a planner for it, that's what this thing's built for, the high performance planner. That's exactly what this is about. It isn't necessarily about scheduling out your days. That's something you do maybe in your computer, but it's about getting into each day from a sense of feeling and outputs and operating rhythms. So it ties very nicely with it. I have links for the high performance planner below as well. If that's something you want to try or go after, that'd be an awesome thing to do. So Reviewing what we've covered, adult learning theory says we need to go over that. We talked about the mind versus heart. And heart-centered pulls typically. A lot of times when we work from our head, it's kind of like pushing. Ugh. So what's the heart-centered work? When we dive into getting more done and feeling more happy and free, the feelings and the outputs. Sometimes if we have clarity and good feeling, we feel more happy and free with our work. Before, during, and after, what emotions and feelings will throw me off? Typically lead to procrastination in a form of that. High performance productivity principles, we went over those. The power of time blocks. And then we gave you a really specific example. And we talked about the operating rhythms to build them in as behavioral pieces. So my challenge for you as you think this through is share with me one time block that you're committed to in the next week or two and what you're doing in it and why it's important to you. One time block that you're committed to in the next week or two, what you're doing in that time block, and why you're committed to it. And if you need help, maybe the first time block will be meet with Charly to sort this out because I don't know exactly what I need to do or how I want to feel. And I'm happy to have that conversation with you. We can do that in our Zoom roundtables, or we can do it in a check-in call here in our mastery community. Now let's go over here to the action list. Think through and journal, heart over the last year. What have you done in the last year that's been heart-centered that maybe you want to bring more into your life around? And these areas are great places to think those through. Second, big picture, the 5 Ps, feelings and outputs. What are you going to do in the next 6 months, as we've talked about this whole entire frame, towards living into these Ps and having the feelings, outputs, and really formulating your own new or enhanced operating rhythms? Again, these areas are great places to start. Let me give you a little bit of a frame. If this seems incredibly overwhelming for you, pick one per week. That's the third item here. 13 weeks, 13 areas. The first, I'm going to start to develop an operating rhythm of learning something new this week. So 3 times a week for 30 minutes. I'm dedicated to reading this or having reading time, and here's what I'm going to do in that time. I'm just going to step in and go. Week 2, I'm going to create. I'm going to develop 30-minute, maybe 2 or 3, 30-minute time blocks to creating something. Week 3, I'm going to share things I've created. I'm developing 2 to 3 time blocks, 30 minutes, 90 minutes, whatever that is for you, to share the things I've created. You see how this can stack? And then just keep adding one on a week or substituting one a week. Does that make sense? You start to develop a habit and you'll sense what's working for you. You also sense what feels right. Cool? Next, schedule your behavioral rhythms and show me. We've already talked about that. So make sure you share it with me because I want to be your accountability buddy here and go after it with you. And finally, baby steps. I've covered that. Try one time block a day to start. Just one. Could be for 10 to 20 minutes. That's fine. In any one of these areas or any other areas that you can think of. That all being said, I hope this training has helped the way I want it to help you. I hope it's framed for you possibilities, the way things can flow, the way things can look. And I hope we've lived in the promise of you at least seeing the steps to get more done and feel more happy and free. And I have to tell you, as I think through this 13 areas, if you just hit one of those areas a week, or if you want to be extra challenged, one a day for 30 minutes, maybe in that time block, it's 13 areas time block. That's what it's called. And every day you're just rotating through one of these. All I'm going to do in this 30 minutes is learn something new. All I'm going to do in this 30 minutes is work on creating something. All I'm going to do in this 30 minutes is go out and share. And for me, that would be just going on and sharing things in the social medias. All I'm going to do in this next 30 minutes is laugh and have fun. All I'm going to do in the next 30 minutes is adventure. I'm going to go out for a walk, a hike. I'm going to drive somewhere quick or ride somewhere quick. And maybe that's an hour or 90 minutes. And adventure. And I'm going to come back and get right back into my normal day. Self-love. I think you get the idea. That all being said, my job on this beautiful planet, and I hope I've lived into it today, is to help you feel more purposeful, more passionate, more positive, more productive, the big topic today, and more profitable. And I think we nailed it from how this stuff can live into those areas. Thank you so much. I'll see y'all soon in our Business Internet Mastery training. Take care. Have a good one. Bye.